After a 5-month-long offseason, we have finally arrived at the 2024 season, the beginning of another year of 162 games during the peak spring and summer seasons. Although the offseason can feel long for some, I think it's the perfect amount of time for me. I wouldn't savor every last second of the MLB season if it were all year round, and I cherish the few months off from baseball activities so we can all regroup for a fresh year. The Seoul Series opener may have concluded, but opening day weekend is still just around the corner. So, what better way to kick off this next season than with a little prediction video? If you've seen my other videos and are wondering why things might feel a little different as this one progresses, I'll have an explanation about that towards the end. So what exactly will I be predicting today? Well, I wanted to predict the main player awards, the MVP, the Cy Young, and the Rookie of the Year. Of course, all of these will be for both leagues, so let's get into it. Starting off with the Rookie of the Year, we've got some phenomenal candidates for this season. For the American League, I've had my eyes on some guys like Colt Keith on the Detroit Tigers, Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays, who had some major league playing time last year, and Evan Carter on the Texas Rangers, who is making waves both in the regular season and in the playoffs. So I've definitely been looking at him too. But it's hard for me to pass up the super obvious guys, and so that's why I'm torn between Jackson Holliday of the Baltimore Orioles and Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers. In case you're not super caught up on prospects or how they've been doing stats-wise, in simple terms, these two do nothing but absolutely rake. But let's go over some things with Holliday first before I talk about Langford. Holliday is currently the league's #1 ranked prospect basically everywhere, and it's unsurprising as to why. He's the son of a former big leaguer who had a really great career, although that really shouldn't impact his prospect rankings. He was drafted out of high school, just turned 20 years old, plays a premium position at shortstop, and has been almost entirely unfazed by minor league pitching so far. Holliday is an all-around great player, but it's undeniable how fantastic he is at the plate, especially when it comes to getting on base. His pitch recognition is second to none, really. Just look at these hitting stats he's been putting up. That on-base percentage of .442 for the entirety of 2023 is honestly absurd for a 20-year-old, and it puts him 7th highest in the league last year for players with at least 300 plate appearances. This results in a 159 WRC+, one of the best in the minor leagues last year. The only bump in the road that you might be seeing is his AAA stats. But after his first 8 games at that level, slashing 152, 300, 212, he then slashed 333, 446, 556 in his last 13 games at that level, so I wouldn't really worry about it. There are a lot of great prospects, but sometimes you don't need to overthink things, and Holliday is ranked #1 for a good reason. However, I think I barely want to choose Langford, and it's because I so badly want to believe that he will be as insane in the major leagues as he is in the minor leagues. Langford is about to join a World Series reigning team after being drafted as a top 5 pick just last year, which I'm sure infuriates any non-Rangers fans in the AL West. Langford played in college, unlike Holliday. He's 2 years older, and he was drafted out of college just last year. It's not common to be projected to make the starting roster for your team the first season after you were drafted, but how can you blame the Rangers here? Just look at how he's been hitting. These slash lines are absurd. An 1157 OPS across every level of the minors is absurd. Since he was drafted last July, he didn't play as much as someone like Holliday, but among all minor league players with at least 200 plate appearances, he was ranked #1 in WRC+, with 199, 99% above league average just months out of college. From the looks of it, Langford hasn't needed to adjust at any level of the minors. The pitchers need to adjust to him, and they're failing at it. MLB Network's prospect rankings have Langford sitting at 6th, and I get trying to be conservative here, but let's be real. I personally don't see how anyone other than maybe Holliday should be above him. If you somehow don't believe in him after all that, spring training is always the final test for a young player on a trajectory like this, and wow, what do you know, he's still crushing the ball. As of March 15th, Langford has the #1 OPS during spring training. Although scouting reports leave Langford's fielding with much to be desired, it looks like he'll be in left field for the foreseeable future. I definitely believe in Holliday, but Langford might just be the chosen one. I take that back. That's definitely putting too much pressure on him, but he's just won me over, and I predict him to win the AL Rookie of the Year this season. Only thing that was stopping that prediction was whether or not he made the roster. Now, I also feel like I have to jump in here and mention that this decision I made between Langford and Holliday becomes significantly easier to make considering Holliday didn't make the opening day roster. Honestly, I was pretty confident when I started this that Holliday would be making the team like Langford, but he didn't. With the CBA changes to prevent service time manipulation, I don't really get the move here from the Orioles, but hopefully we won't have to wait too long and Holliday can place highly in Rookie of the Year voting like Adley Rutschman did and get that full year of service time despite not being their opening day. This doesn't mean that Holliday can't win Rookie of the Year, but I would be lying if I said it doesn't hurt his chances. I'm just glad I chose Langford so I didn't have to completely redo this. Moving on to the National League, it's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You'd be hard-pressed to try and convince me otherwise with everything we know right now. Yes, there's Jackson Chourio on the Brewers, Jung-Hoo Lee on the Giants, and unfortunately Noelvi Marte on the Reds just tested positive for steroids, but it doesn't matter. Yamamoto's proven himself. His ERA for basically his entire time in Japan's MPB League has been ridiculous, and he's won the Eiji Sawamura Award given to the best pitcher in MPB the last 3 years in a row. He's one of 4 players to win it 3 times and one of 2 players to win it 3 times in a row. He's one of the best pitchers we've ever seen come out of Japan, and he deserves the hype he's given. His start to spring training has been a little tough, and his first start to the year was also really bad, but he deserves an adjustment period just like everybody else. Kodai Senga is a super recent example of how a pitcher from Japan can thrive in their first year, but with a little time needed to adjust. Plus, Yamamoto's 5 years younger than Senga was in his first year, and he's also been regarded much higher as a pitching prospect. Again, this is one where you shouldn't think about it too hard, so I'm gonna do just that and go with the obvious pick to win NL Rookie of the Year, and that's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. If you didn't get a glimpse of what he could do in Japan or during the World Baseball Classic, don't let his Seoul Series start cloud your judgment of him. I'd like to see him pitch for a while longer before I change my mind drastically on it. For things like the Cy Young Award, predictions might start to get a little bit harder. Are the best pitchers going to continue to thrive, or will there be a surprise contender down the stretch? When it comes to the American League, I'm going with the latter. I'm a big Tarek Skubal believer, and I think he could have a seriously good season in 2024. This is an opinion that I'm also seeing take off in recent months. I know he had limited games last year, but he showed out when he was pitching, and in a division as weak as the AL Central, he could have one of the easier slates out of any pitcher in the league. Last season's rule changes generally did what MLB wanted it to do, and that was to speed up the game and increase offense. The results show that pitchers did much worse last year than in 2022. 19 qualified starters with a sub-3 ERA in 2022 versus just 5 of those in 2023. Skubal's a rare case of a guy last year who pitched at an even higher level despite the rule changes. Not to mention, it's pretty common for pitchers to need a few years before they become an elite starter who also consistently tosses 170 plus innings. Garrett Cole, Kevin Gausman, Pablo Lopez, Zach Gallen, Corbin Burns, these are all guys who need as little as 2 years like for Burns or as much as 8 years like for Gausman to reach top of the league status. Skubal's a lefty with a varied pitch arsenal, and he touched 99 with his four-seamer. His fastball plays great into his changeup, 2 pitches that were very effective from him last year. Skubal's fastball was one of the best in the league too, with a StatCast run value per 100 pitches of 2.3, easily one of the highest among all starters. He also had one of the best FIPs in the league with 2.00, one of the best Ks per 9, and is in one of the league's most pitcher-friendly ballparks. Again, all of this stuff is based on less than half as many innings as other starters, as he only pitched 80.1, but I still think the production is a great sign. People well versed in last year's performances would not be too surprised to see this coming. He's kind of become the top underrated Cy Young candidate to the point where he might not be underrated anymore, but I still think he can make a massive impact this year. Now for the National League, I think this year is when Spencer Strider shows that he's been one of the best pitchers in the league. Strider is one of those players right now that someone either thinks is incredibly overrated or the best pitcher in the league. If I had to choose between the two, I would fit in the second category because I think he could easily be the best pitcher in baseball this year. His 3.86 ERA last year is one of the biggest focal points of Strider discourse, and while I think it's perfect perfectly valid to be concerned about it, I think everything else he's shown proves he is much better than that ERA makes him out to be. Beyond his incredible league-leading 281 strikeouts and 13.5 Ks per 9 last year, he had a 2.85 FIP. His FIP was the best in the NL among qualified starters. I'm actually not the biggest FIP supporter in the world, but that big of a difference between your ERA and FIP is simply not that sustainable. If you want to go further into advanced stats, his SIERA was the lowest in baseball with 2.86, and his Stuff Plus was third with 125. There's nothing wrong with his pitches. He's one of those guys in 2023 where he was elite in practically every important pitcher stat except ERA. I'm not trying to force people to use stats they don't care about, but you just gotta see where I'm coming from here and why I think Strider's ERA was unlucky. To some, ERA is the end-all be-all, and I wouldn't disagree when it comes to winning awards. If Strider has a similar season to last year, it doesn't matter how good his SIERA, FIP, WHIP, or any other stat is if he's 28th in the league in ERA. Awards voters will always look at ERA first and foremost nowadays, but I just can't see it happening again. Strider had a 2.67 ERA in his rookie year in 2022 where he pitched 131.2 innings, and we all know he can throw absolute heat over 100 miles an hour. Something drastic would have to change for Strider to have a similar ERA to last year. I see him being one of the league's best starters yet again, and my best bet to take home the NL Cy Young. Finally, we're at the MVP, and obviously this is one I've talked about not too long ago. I don't want to reiterate a ton of things I said in that video, but I'm still going to go over why I have Fernando Tatis Jr. as my NL MVP. If you've seen that video already, feel free to skip to the AL MVP pick at the chapter's timecode. I don't have much additional information to add to it, but I would like to inform those who haven't seen it. Feel free to check out that video if you want a much bigger deep dive into why Tatis was my pick though. My biggest motivation for choosing Tatis this year is a combination of his previous success with his most recent success. Before the whole PED scandal and motorcycle accidents, Tatis was making his mark as one of the best hitters in the league at a very young age. But with his return in 2023, we saw a pretty big dip in his production from what we were all used to. However, the reverse happened with his fielding. Tatis was never highly regarded as a fielder, and his stats as a shortstop were not detrimental, but they were also not very good. But last year, with his first full-time move to right field, Tatis put up one of the best defensive performances of the year. He won his first Gold Glove and took home the NL's Platinum Glove in his first full season at the position. If you told me that Tatis was going to be rusty as a hitter when he came back from his suspension, I would not be shocked. But if you also told me he'd completely flipped the narrative of his defense on its head, I would be shocked. Tatis finally fixed the one flaw in his game last year, but he happened to have his worst offensive season at the same time. I think Tatis is completely capable of returning to his offensive heights, and that in combination with his newfound defensive capabilities is a scary thing for any other MVP contender in the league. Not to mention how much of a threat he can be on the base paths. It's exactly why I think he'll win the NL MVP this year. With the AL MVP, I'm taking a long trip back to my very first video where I predicted Bobby Witt Jr. to have a monster second half in 2023. This was the one prediction I was really proud of from that video, and Witt's offensive production skyrocketed in the second half. He's also technically the first player I've ever made an analysis of on this channel. So I'm making a Witt prediction yet again because I think he can win the AL MVP this year. Witt developed all across the board last year in comparison to his rookie season. The defense improved greatly, the offense went well above league average, and he had 30 home runs with 49 stolen bases. Witt had a solid first year, but the former #1 ranked prospect finally showed fans what we were hoping to see in 2023. It feels like there's still so much more to go before Witt hits his ceiling as a player. In 2023, his first half was looking too similar to 2022, but in the second half, Witt put up fantastic numbers without his BABIP really indicating any signs that he was getting lucky. Great numbers in the second half don't automatically mean it'll be the norm from now on, but it does tell us that he finally got over that hump of adjusting to the big leagues. With his defense improving to 14 outs above average at shortstop, it places Witt at 12th in the entire league in outs above average and 4th among all shortstops that year. Witt is the kind of player that catches my eye to win an MVP for similar reasons to Tatis. He does everything well all across the board, allowing him to not have to rely on just one thing to keep his production going throughout the season. It's why Witt was able to accumulate 5.7 FWAR with just a 115 WRC+. So with a little more consistency in his offense, Wood could be a 7 WAR player and a clear top MVP candidate this year. So that's why I have him as my AL MVP. So those are all my predictions for this year's main player awards across both leagues. I hope I was able to give a solid look at why all these players are highly regarded in my eyes, and why they have a good case of winning their respective awards at the end of the year. Let me know who you've got for any of these player awards as well. Here's my little explanation as to what side quests are, which is going to be a shorter length video series I do on this channel. I want to try experimenting with different things on this channel. There are certain topics like this one that I feel wouldn't work with my longer form video style, whether it's because of length or time constraints. My aim for these videos is to be around 10 to 15 minutes and tone down the editing to allow me to release them much quicker than I normally would. I want to just get straight to the point and talk about more basic topics like awards predictions, notable events going on throughout the season, a player performance I've been tracking, or any smaller topics that I don't think need a full-length video. This does not mean anything is happening to the longer form videos. They're not going anywhere, and they're still my primary focus. I really enjoy making those and taking deep dives into complex topics, but these videos are meant to just fill the gap every once in a while and give me a little more stuff to upload rather than immediately shooting down an idea because it didn't quite fit my normal format. I decided to consider them a different series of videos for those reasons. Whether you've been around for a while or you're new here, I'd love to hear feedback on what you think. And that's it for the rare time I'll mention my content making process within a video. Thanks for watching.